Just wanted to let you guys know that whatever you're going through, there's always a way out, and there's always a way up. There's always a way to love and heal yourself, really. And everything you need is already here for you. As somebody that's been through the deepest hells on earth and the highest heavens and somewhere in between, I just want you to know that there is hope. So, a little bit about my story. My journey with mental health began in junior high with an eating disorder and suicide attempts, and ending up in the hospital for 6 months after that, and then healing, and then going to high school, and then dropping out, and then running away from home and starting to do hard drugs on the street and house hopping with friends. And that's when my healing journey began, when I actually met someone that taught me drum and guitar, and we started going to festivals and hitchhiking and dancing and singing, and it was really beautiful, and it actually woke me up to like the fact that the world's a beautiful place. Then we had a kid together at 18, 19 I was, and he became abusive. For a whole year I didn't tell anybody, and then I finally got help and went to a women's shelter, and that's when my second healing journey started. So my son ended up being taken away, and found a really beautiful home with family, and, you know, having a good life, and then I became homeless, and from there I had to go to ADAC to get off of weed and psychedelics. And that's when my other healing journey started at Wild Rose College, where I actually started taking courses in angel awareness, Reiki, chakra, meditation, pranic healing, course in miracle intro and stuff like that. And that was super beautiful. But that's when my schizophrenia started, and I thought I was either God or the devil, and I didn't tell anybody at first. I had really violent thoughts, even though I had no intention or desire to act on them, and I really didn't. People with schizophrenia actually aren't violent. That's not a symptom. That's just, if they were violent before, they probably will be violent after, just like other disorders. That being said, there's exceptions to the rule, but you hear about it in the news for years, and it gives us a bad rap, and we're more likely to be victims of violence than we are to be perpetrators. And so media, there's a lot of stigma. People are afraid to be around us when they find out we have schizophrenia, which is very sad. And we're changing that at my work, in the speeches that we do at universities and high schools, teaching people about what schizophrenia really is, and telling our stories and how we healed. And I wouldn't be who I was today without going through that and having that disorder of the brain, the dopamine imbalance, or whatever you want to call it. So the schizophrenia got so bad I ended up in the hospital for about 6 months. That's when I first started studying The Secret and the Law of Attraction, though I didn't really get too deep into it until like last summer. And the hospital was beautiful, and I've been there 7 times, not in the last 11 years, other than one emergency stay a few years ago, 8 years ago. And so yeah, I just was there for 6 months in Rocky View, Unit 49, and then Claire's home, then back to Rocky View, then to Ponoka. And thank God I got out of it. I called my, Reiki teacher, I need help, and she sent healing to me with friends, and all of the love and support from my family and the amazing team at the hospital. I healed my mind completely. For 4 years after I got out, I had no symptoms at all. Of course, maybe a little bit, but nothing really out of the ordinary. Went straight into yoga teacher training, and then drum circle facilitators training, and then started going on retreats with ayahuasca, and that was super beautiful and healing for 4 years. And then I came off my meds and did ayahuasca and moved out on my own, quit counseling, and relapsed. My son was just going to turn 5. I was just about to see him again, and kind of messed that up, so I'm sorry about that. But needed to go and learn what didn't work, and I've been on my meds since and tried to lower it once and ended up in the hospital from trauma and overnight stuff happened at the same time, and they sent me home back on my dose. So the only way to come off of it that I know of is like the Inner Compass Initiative protocol. So I got out of the hospital, went to yoga teacher training, and then our college actually did a trip to Mexico as a spiritual journey. So it was super beautiful, and my mom was like, "Don't go." I was like, "I have to go, I'm being called," and it was beautiful. We went to a sweat lodge, we went to the pyramids, did ceremonies with crystals. I bought some drums there to start, teaching drumming to people, and did a little drum circle on the tour bus, had this gauge bus driver that was super sweet, and made new friends. And then 2 of the people on the trip actually invited me to work on their farm. And so that was really beautiful. And so, the next summer I worked on an organic farm all summer. It was a little bit slow and not really my forte, but I loved being there. And we lived in a teepee and then was hanging out. And then after I started going to retreat, ironically, they said, "Don't be friends with people that smoke weed." So I left the teepee and slept in the trailer. And over the years, they said that I was the best retreater they'd ever had because I tried to do everything they said. Of course, I fell short, but I really believed in the teachings and stuff. So yeah, but even my schizophrenia eventually came back after coming off meds, doing ayahuasca, moving out on my own, quitting counseling. But I did grow and learn a lot during that period too, so I needed to go through that. So I was going to retreat, and then there's a herbalist there, a renowned herbalist for women's issues, and the shaman was like, "Well, you should go back to your college but study herbal medicine." So I did. I loved it, and I fell in love with the teachings, but I didn't know how to apply the herbs on myself till years later, like even just in the last year. Well, there was other times I did, but anyways, not back then very well for some reason. And I developed orthorexia. I was so obsessed about eating healthy that it was actually very unhealthy. So I was trying to follow all the rules of food combining and not knowing how to be vegan and trying to be anyways. So now I'm vegetarian and I do it properly. So I'm like probably healthier and happier than I've ever been, although I still have a lot of spiritual challenges to figure out my direction and stuff in life and self-discipline and stuff like that. But yeah, I loved working on the farm, got super grounded. The people there were amazing, especially the main gardener lady who did some healing sessions for me and stuff. So anyways, I didn't go back the next year because they didn't want to hire people part-time anymore, just a couple siblings full-time. And so that was sad, but part of my journey. And I ended up starting to really teach drumming at different venues like community centers, daycares, or else Between Friends Club, to people with disabilities. And I loved teaching drumming, but it was kind of a hard, dark time in my life too. And I started teaching yoga, and that was beautiful. Weekly at Studio C, which was cool. Some people with mental health in an art program, and worked for a year, as a herbalist at Morning Sun and Herbal Healing, which is beautiful organizations. Later at, that was Nutrition House. Later at Morning Sun, years later. But I really loved that for a while. But when my mental health started to get worse, after doing the things I spoke of earlier, my boss had no idea that I was relapsing because I was fine at work, but at home I was like freaking out because I didn't have enough friends or communities, or shaman told me to leave the drum circles because of the drugs, that I needed to get stronger, and maybe they were right or they were wrong, but I listened because it was like a New Year's Eve drum circle event with a a psychic, and the psychic even did a reading and said, if you're not careful, you'll end up in addictions at the end of the year. And then someone invited me to a party that day, and so I did stop going for years, but the drum circle was super healing. I went there for a year or two. Danced in the middle, made friends. It was beautiful. And yeah, at school I made some really cool friends, which was awesome. Intentionally had to put myself out there, and so it was really good. But unfortunately didn't stay in touch long term. Too long term anyways, but for a while. And got super, super grounded studying the herbs. At first my questions were all esoteric, and then I actually started to be able to ask some really good questions and get really grounded in the knowledge of the plant medicines. And that really helps me a lot. And I could help other people at the health food store. I was really good at my job and helping people find products and herbs for themselves and supplements. And I knew a lot and applied it, and I learned a lot, and my coworkers were incredible. But after I relapsed, I ended up back in hospital for 3 months in the winter. And then ever since then, life was really hard for about 3 years, in and out of hospitals in the winter. Kind of got a bit of brain damage. I came off the meds way too fast. I didn't follow the Inner Compass protocol. I didn't even know about it. And I took True Hope, which worked, the supplements, but then I came off them too. Probably part of my illness told me to, but the hospitals are beautiful because they did art therapy, CBT, meditation, yoga, goal setting groups, walk and talk, nature, going to sailing, and playing in the gym every day, and then drumming a lot with the guy that worked there, which was beautiful. And the patients were amazing. The staff was amazing, and give you PRN meds when you need them, and then you earn weekend pass. And of course the view from Rocky View is stunning. So lots of healing going on, and unfortunate that I needed it, but it was beautiful to be there. Always really had a positive attitude despite whatever happened. I was always a fighter and knew there was a way out. And then I found Carnet Center, and that's what kind of stopped me from going to the hospital, because I had a mental health community full of people with schizophrenia. It was beautiful, 40 people maybe, and do all sorts of groups like the ones I already mentioned, along with cooking class, woodworking, games, addictions group for people with past and present addictions, CBT, art therapy, meditation, exercise, different things, going to the gym, going to drum circles, joining their band, playing sports. I played sports with all the guys, me and like 14 other guys, so it was super fun. I love that. Ball hockey and baseball and soccer and stuff, so that was super cool and beautiful. And then I healed, and I was fine after about a year of that. It's like good, happy, healthy. Still needed to eat properly, but I eventually found pre-made vegan food, and I was like, oh yeah, super nourishing, lentil soups and stuff. And now I just do vegetarian, and finally, can make some wraps with hummus and trail mix and hemp and chia and smoothies and herbs, and ashwagandha and niacin and supplements and greens powder and stuff, so keeping me balanced. So with Carnet Center, eventually you get discharged from that program, or at least the group portion and the case management counseling. Moved into Onward Homes. A place ended up opening up at one of Onward Homes in Alice Bassett over in Inglewood, which had a view of a factory. It was so small, and I was so scared I ended up back in hospital because I didn't want to move there. Bus route sucked, and I didn't move in, thank God, and then found this place later that opened up. It's way better. It's in a beautiful neighborhood with trees and perfect for a dog and stuff. So anyways, did move here, but before I moved here I was doing really well because I had found a potential place, which is a mental health clubhouse. It puts people to work at the clubhouse to volunteer, helps us find jobs, employment grants, social rec, meals, stuff like that. So that saved my life, but it became a crutch too. And that's when my volunteer journey started, with COST and seniors in Green Calgary and all these different places, Arusha Center and so on, right? But I didn't really work much, which I needed to work, and I didn't know I needed it. So I had a few jobs here and there, Eco Yard, Staples, Boston Pizza. Yeah, I didn't really keep anything. Morning Sun, too long term. Got super bad side effects here, and I couldn't breathe every time I inhaled. It was like, so that was awful. Med side effects, and then just all the car pollution. And then called the shaman. She told me to do Louise Hay, Heal Your Life. So I started the affirmations from that book, and that healed it beautifully. So, but yeah, I was having those symptoms at Community Foods, and when my temp job ended, I didn't go look for other work, other just Morning Sun for a while, but I couldn't work because the side effects were so bad. I couldn't breathe, so I needed to rest and heal. And so then I started hanging out with the guy in the building here after I moved in that was really nice but cranky, and so he kind of brought me down but lifted me up at the same time. So it was about 4 years, and we got super addicted to TV and would just watch it all day, and it was super dark. And he left his volunteer job and became suicidal, and eventually I had to leave him because it was so toxic at that point. And I'm grateful for our friendship for the time. And after that, yeah, a few things happened. I ended up in an abusive relationship for 8 years because I'm in this building with mental health, and a lot of people. I have my own place, but I have a worker I meet with once a week, and I've been here 11 years. I'm ready to move out maybe soon, but I needed it, which was great, but it's subsidized. That's cool, and my neighbors are mostly nice for they hang out in front a lot, and just people are all friends, and so it's a lot different than a regular apartment building. So I started going to Potential Place a lot, and then all these different volunteer jobs and volunteering on the board and everything, but I needed to learn to work. And so what healed me from the relationship was getting Luna dog, and like getting actually going to peer school to become a peer support worker. So peer support workers are people with lived experience with mental health or caring for people with mental health or addictions, as a caregiver, family member, friend, or partner. And that was 8 months of amazing school, which I absolutely loved, and it saved my life. And then became a peer support worker just slightly after school, at the Schizophrenia Society. So I talk to people on the phone with schizophrenia. I tell them my story and give them a little bit of advice, but mostly just listen and be a friend, and a guide and a teacher. But they also teach me so much, so it's really beautiful. And in line to be an in-person peer support worker at the coffee shops where we meet people where they're at. And we do presentations at universities, high schools, and nonprofits. So we all have schizophrenia except for 3 staff. We have a play that we do. It's just such a loving community. Most people have partners unless they passed away, because these people do really well because it's an amazing job that we have to help people. And whoever came up with that was quite brilliant, actually. Super grateful. And so I ended up out of the abusive relationship a year ago and finding my partner now, who is this total sweetheart and very encouraging. So doing spiritual poetry to his music, and it's been beautiful going to all the sound baths that he's a part of and does, and collaborating, and just everything I went through taught me so much about like love and compassion for myself and others, and how to encourage and lift people up, and how to not judge people. And I'm so grateful I made it through the hard addictions, and going to Aventa and ADAC rehab to get sober, and trying mushrooms last summer and realizing that I can't be around those ceremonies. And well, we'll see about that, but not do them anymore, and then learning not to do ayahuasca as someone with schizophrenia, and self-care, and learning to make these videos to share my story, so that I can let people know that like whatever we go through is actually for our highest evolution. And so it's happening for us, not to us. We just have to see it as an opportunity to like grow and then help other people that are going through what we went through. And so maybe it's a death of a loved one, maybe it's a crisis, a health issue, maybe it's a loss of a job, maybe it's a lack of focus or addictions, but abusive relationships or whatever it is, if you're struggling, there's a way out, and there is a way. And there's lots of books to help, and spiritual podcasts and books and library books and bookstores. And what changed my life was joining the gym, reading the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, joining yoga and meditation, and learning music and singing and taking singing lessons over the last year, and joining communities like Light Cellar and Circles of Rhythm drum circles and Om Shanti band jam sessions and get-togethers, and finding my people, and hiking and being in nature and taking care of my dog, and like reuniting with my son, and writing my book, and poetry and journaling, and all of this stuff, like taking my shoes off on the ground, or spending time in nature, or reading, watching movies that are funny or insightful, being with a loving partner for 9 months, planning for the future, figuring out my budget and my spiritual practice to save some money and try to get off of AISH. I get a free paycheck the rest of my life unless I move in with my partner, and so I'm willing to do it because love triumphs over everything. And but when I'm ready, maybe, so we'll see. Not having a kid since the first one has been good because it's more relaxing. Just getting a dog and reuniting with my son's the best thing ever, so it's been great. And he's got a good attitude at 19, and raised with a lot of love, so lots to be grateful for. SRF, and my little home here, and it's like my little sanctuary. I was gonna show you guys, but I guess I can't. And writing poems about triumphing over darkness and seeing the world in the lens of love and light and gratitude, and working with The Secret and manifesting and vision boards and gratitude and visualizing and stuff too, from the movie book The Secret. And I have a lot to figure out and do still in this life before I die, and I hope I figure it out, and I think I've got some good insight as to what to do, but I'm still figuring that out. So I hope this story has inspired you. I gotta go walk Luna and go to bed. Got a big presentation for an addiction center tomorrow, which is gonna be fun. Here, my first one at home on Zoom, so I better get to bed. But super blessed to be able to share my story. But my favorite thing in life is my family and my friends and my dog and my health, eating healthy and taking herbal medicine and trying to live in balance through organic food and local food, and not supporting certain corporations that are unethical. And so I really encourage you to meditate or journal on, if you haven't found your gifts and purpose, to figure out what that is and fulfill it and live a life of service to others. It's really the only way, if you want to succeed in this world, is to give, but not from an empty cup. You must fill your cup also. And so I leave you guys with that. Thank you for listening. Just whatever you're going through, feel free to reach out, but just know that you are loved and you are blessed.